Hey everyone, and welcome to another video from us at The Kickabout. This is Chris, and Dan is with me again. In the last video, we did the top 20 Premier League managers in terms of what we thought was the grading and the tier level. Today, 10 games into the Premier League season, so we've got a bit of information to work on. We are going to predict what the final table is going to look like. We've had 3 managers have already lost their job in the Premier League. We've had up and down form, etc., etc. We've had some surprises, so this is going to be this could be interesting to see what we come up with. So, Dan, you're going to go first this time. So why don't you tell us what your bottom 3, the 3 teams relegated, are going to be?
So I think the first one's fairly easy. We'll start with Norwich.
Dave, you need to tell me.
I was going to say I don't really need to say too much with that one. Should we just move on? Next. I genuinely think it might be Newcastle, to be honest. It's a tough one depending on what they do in the January transfer window. But based on current form and based on current players,
they're in deep trouble.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of position they're going to be finishing. Next, to be honest, it's a toss-up between Leeds and Burnley for me. Part of me is like, well, Burnley always escape. And then part of me is like, well, Leeds were like right up the top last season. But I know how stubborn Bielsa is, and I feel like he just won't change anything.
No. January could also be quite pivotal to them.
Yeah, and will the board... I mean, he only ever has 1 year contract, doesn't he? So would the board just say, we need to get rid of him?
It won't cost much to get rid of him, potentially.
Because I'm looking at those other teams... I'll tell you what, I'm going to go Watford.
After all that. Okay.
I'm going to go Watford. Just because I don't see either of those two going down. I feel like they'll be there, but I don't think they'll go down. And then I just sort of saw Watford in the corner of my eye. I hate the relegation ones because it's always so close and you never know, other than Norwich. But yeah, I'm gonna go Watford.
My bottom 3, I think. Well, I mean, yeah. It's sad that we don't even need to back it up with any kind of reasoning as to why, because it is so painfully obvious as to why we think that. If there's anyone watching who actually thinks Norwich are going to survive, please let yourself be known below so that we can send people to come and get you and take you away, because you're clearly have taken leave of your senses. Elsewhere, I think Newcastle are going to have enough to get out of it. I think it is going to be very, very heavily dependent on January, but I think if they can get a good manager in, make a couple of good signings in January, I think they'll be okay. So there is a bit of a dependency on that, because otherwise, if they don't, then yes, I think they would go down. If it was right now, if I didn't think they were going to get a better manager in, if I didn't think they were going to sign anybody, if they didn't have the takeover, then yes, I think they would be relegated. I too think Watford are going to go. I'm not sure Ranieri, as much as I love him, and you've mentioned in the last video that his press conferences are amazing. He's such a nice guy. I don't know if he's got the credentials to manage Watford to get them out. Have they got the squad to survive? Coin toss for me.
I think they've got the players going forward. I think it's the defence.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the way this is grouped, obviously we've got the sort of the just outside relegation guys. In there, the teams that I'm going to put in there, I would say that Watford have got player for player, not a great deal different in terms of squad. I'm just not sure that Ranieri has got it in him to keep them up. I could be wrong in that. And then the other team to go down, I actually had them to go down last year. Actually, no, I didn't. I had Brighton to go down last year, my predictions on the podcast. I'm actually going to put Burnley. I think their luck's going to run out. Honestly, I think that Sean Dyche has done an amazing job on a shoestring budget. I've just got this horrible feeling like at some point it's going to stop. Yeah. I don't know if you can keep doing it over and over and over again. Equally, I wouldn't be surprised if they survived. But when I look at all of these other teams here, apart from Newcastle for the reasons I mentioned, I don't see anybody that I think that come the end of the season will be in as much trouble as Burnley might be, because they left it late last year to get out of trouble. So yeah, that's my bottom 3. Norwich, I think, is nailed on, and I think cases can be made for the other 2 for both of ours.
Yeah, so next will be Burnley for me. Like I was saying earlier, they could easily be in that relegation zone. But I do feel like they're the was it Steve McQueen? Great Escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Burnley for me. Sean Dyche just always finds a way of escaping relegation, and I think they'll do it again somehow. Next, I'm going to go Southampton. Even though I was sort of tossing up with Leeds earlier, I think they'll potentially invest in January or sort something out because they can't be sitting down there come midway through the season. Whereas Southampton, they're in a good run of form at the moment. And they are doing quite well, but we know that they have that blip where they have the tendency to lose a game like 9-0 and then they just start going downhill again. I hope they don't, because I do actually quite like Southampton, but I look at their squad and it just looks quite sort of thin. One or two injuries.
I mean, I know Shea Adams scored a wonderful goal at the weekend for them, but I do worry goal scoring, which is what we said from moment one. As soon as they sold Danny Ings, we're like, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Because replacing somebody who scored the number of goals that he has for Southampton was going to be a big issue. And I'm not sure, whilst I like Adam Armstrong, I'm not sure he's going to be getting enough goals to replace Danny Ings.
And next for me, it is going to be Leeds. I think they'll pull off the escape, but I think they're going to be right down the bottom somewhere this season. And yeah, I can't see them finishing. Maybe they'll be in the next category up, but it'll be one of those two categories, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put Villa. I think Villa are gonna. I honestly, what I'm seeing at Villa right now, I think they're gonna struggle. Am I being too harsh on them on current form?
Over Newcastle.
I'm basing my preconceptions on Newcastle on them having a good manager and a good January. If we were to look into a crystal ball now and you could tell me that they're not going to do any of that, then no, absolutely not. Yeah. So I'm sort of doing the opposite to what you're doing right now. I see worrying signs with Villa. I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Yeah. Dean Smith is being really positive in front of the media, but the body language and the results and the way the team is playing defensively, they look all at sea. They're really poor from set pieces. I think they've got the second or the third worst record from set pieces this season. So unless something changes quite quickly, I think they're going to find themselves in that rut where it's really difficult to get out with, and then they're going to sort of be in this, when you get into that rut and you get down the bottom, it can be very difficult to pull away from it. So I think that it could be a long season for Aston Villa fans. I'm going to go Southampton next for the reasons you just mentioned. I think goal scoring is going to be an issue. I don't actually think they're going to go and buy a striker in January. I don't think they will. I think they'll be fairly happy with Shea Adams, Adam Armstrong, supported by people like Nathan Redmond. But I think that they're not going to be winning games 3-4, 5-0. I think they're going to be relying on their defence remaining quite solid, which is what they've been recently, and nicking games 1-0, 2-1, that sort of thing. And then next on my list, I'm going to go Leeds. I think they're in for a long season as well. I don't think they'll get relegated. I think that whilst Bielsa is a very stubborn man, I still think that they're going to have enough. They'll win enough games with people like Rafinha, just those moments of quality that he'll win a game on his own every now and then. And I think that'll be enough to keep them up. Right, so that's our 15-17. On to 11-14, the bottom mid-table.
Next for me is Villa. They are really struggling this season, but I look at their squad and I think they're more than good enough to finish at least 14th, to be honest.
I agree with you. I think their squad is easily good enough. I'm just concerned from what I'm seeing that they're going to, there's been other teams that have had great squads that have really struggled. So,
next for me, to be honest, is probably going to be West Ham. No, I'm joking.
Fucking hell, man.
Brentford.
Just for a minute, I took me by surprise. That took me by surprise. I was about to kick you out of my house.
They're flying at the moment, but I've just seen sort of one or two blips from them. Especially, was it Burnley they just got? Who did they just? Got
battered by Burnley at the weekend. Yeah, it was a really surprise result.
I feel like they've at the start they sort of looked unstoppable. But yeah, I think that not just that result.
It will settle down.
Yeah, I think they will sort of come back down to earth, and I mean, the fans are still driving them through every game at the moment, but I mean, that's still a great finish if they finish there, to be honest.
Yeah. 13th in their first Premier League season would be amazing.
Next for me is, just double check what's there, Wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's between them and I don't know actually. Yeah, they're definitely there. I don't know who I'm going to put next yet. But yeah, Wolves, new manager. Again, they've been up and down as well. I think they beat Everton tonight 2-1, so maybe that says more about Everton than Wolves. But I think they're going to be another team where they're beating teams that you wouldn't expect them to, and then they're losing teams you wouldn't expect them to. And maybe next season, when they've got a second season under the manager, they might start to push up a bit more and be like Wolves from a couple of years ago. Next, but to me, it's between Brighton and Palace. I don't know if I can see Palace pushing that high up, and I don't know if I can see Brighton holding on that long in those positions. The fact that Brighton are up there at the moment, I'm going to say Palace next.
Okay.
I think they look so much better under Vieira.
I think the difference this season will be is that in previous seasons, the gap between Palace and the bottom teams will be a lot bigger this season. Than they'll be a lot closer to the teams in the top half than they will be to the bottom teams. I think that's the big difference.
I've only put them behind Brighton. The fact that Brighton are already up there, I think Brighton will fall slower than Palace will rise. Yeah.
Let's move on to mine. So I am going to go 14th. I'm going to go Brentford. I think for the same reason you said, I think at some point the euphoria with the players and being in the league will begin to just subside a little. I think the fans are going to I think the fans this season are going to be like the Pompey fans. They're just going to be loving it so much that they're just going to be driving their team forward, and their home form is going to be largely what is going to be the difference between them being sort of in here, 15th to 17th, and being in and around this area. If they can maintain the home form with their fans being the sort of the 12th man, if you like, I think that they can have a good season and finish well. The key is can Thomas Frank keep them playing at that intensity all season in the Premier League? When you get to Christmas, I mean, not that they played more games in the Championship than they will in the Premier League, but obviously that quality, that intensity is that much different. The Burnley result this weekend will be a real wake-up call to Brentford, I think. I think you're right, there was this almost aura of invincibility about Brentford that nobody could knock them off their peg. All of a sudden, one of the weaker teams in the league, you would argue, has come along and just beaten them and topped them 3-1. So, I think that will bring them back down to earth. It'll be interesting to see how they recover from that now. Yeah. And they're in the quarterfinals of the Cup as well. So it's been a great start to the season for them. 13th, let's have a look at who we got next. You know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to go Newcastle 14th. Okay. And Brentford 13th.
I was wondering where you were going to stick.
Yeah. So I just saw that badge. So I think what's going to happen is, this is my theory, and this could completely fall apart, is I think they're going to be here until January. Right. I think
and then they'll sign Mbappe.
I think the key will be is how far adrift they are come January. If they are with Norwich and barely got any points on the board, then they're probably going to stay there for a season, regardless of who they sign. Because they can't sign an entire new team, and the confidence of the players that are still in that team who have been in there all season are going to be so bad that the new players may not be able to lift them enough. Yeah. So, but my theory for the moment is they bring in a good manager who sorts them out, gets a few wins, keeps them in touch with these teams here, and then in January they make a few more signings, which solidifies them up a little bit, and then they finish in a nice, safe, secure 14th. Looking over their shoulders a little bit, but never enough to really be in any danger. Yeah. But as I say, the key is going to be is how long it takes them to get a new manager in, and how far, adrift are they come January when they can make new signings. Yeah. So Brentford can move up a space to 13th. In 12th position, I'm going to go Wolves. And then I think, again, for the reason you mentioned, they've been up and down. I think they've found the form. I think they're beginning to do what Bruno Lage wants them to do. They've got a bit of steel about them as well. They've got a little bit of that Wolves never say die attitude that they had under Nuno. So I think they're set for a good season. And at the moment, 11th, this is where it gets tricky now, I think. In 11th place, I think I'm going to go Palace. I think, again, like I said with you, I think the difference is that they're going to be a lot closer to these guys at the top, in the top half, which, despite the fact that position-wise, 11th is not particularly impressive, the gap difference will represent a huge step forward for the team if they keep going the way they are. So, So that's my 11th to 14th.
So next will be Brighton for me. I think that'd be great if Brighton managed to finish that high up, especially sort of finishing above some of those teams with the likes of Wolves and stuff there and Leeds.
I'm fairly certain that Brighton have not finished above about 15th.
No, I don't. I think
Premier League
they were like
history.
17th last season. So I mean, the way they're going at the moment, it looks like they could finish quite high up, but you never know. They could obviously have a drop off, and we've seen it with clubs right up there, and then all of a sudden they just start to drop and finish out of sight. But I'm hoping that Brighton finish. I feel like so far they deserve to be that high up.
Yeah.
Which is why they're staying up there for me. Next will be Everton.
Get in there. There you go.
Yeah, they just look a bit out of sorts at the moment. They've had a few injuries with players coming in and out of the side, and a lot of other disruptions, like certain players not starting from the start of the season. Calvert-Lewin's been a big miss for them. Richarlison was out, and there was that stat ages ago where they just don't win games without him.
Yeah.
But I feel like for Everton it'll be more about next season than this season, especially with the amount they spend. Not that spending is everything, but when you're trying to keep up with the big boys at the top, you can't be spending 1.5 million.
And who is the final club that's not going to get into Europe?
For me, it's Spurs, which is maybe this is another one where Conte comes in maybe and he completely transforms them, but if I'm to go off of what I've seen so far, I think those other teams will finish above Spurs.
Yeah.
Potential. Actually, no, scratch that. Take them out and put Leicester in there.
Ooh.
Yeah, probably maybe more controversial. I just think with Conte, well, I keep saying Conte, but we assume it's going to be Conte.
Yeah.
I think he will get the best out of those players, and I can see them starting to move up. And the way Leicester have obviously got their manager, and they've just been so, win 1 week, lose the next week, win 1 week, lose the next week.
Yeah, I suspect that, if we're going based on this, I think Leicester will be close.
Yeah. I think it'll be between them and Spurs for that spot, but I think just off of what I've seen, and if Nuno was still manager, Leicester would definitely be other way around. But I think the fact that Spurs have made that decision and got them potentially going for Conte, we know Conte's a winner. And even if he doesn't win anything, he'll definitely be getting them up there.
I mean, all the information we've got right now on this Monday evening after he's been sacked is that Conte is going to sign.
Yeah.
I mean, we've not heard anything to suggest that the deal is fallen through. Yeah. So, right, my 8th to 10th, not too dissimilar to yours. I'm going to go Brighton 10th. I think the 10th would be a miraculous achievement. I think that to maintain what they're doing right now across the entire season, I think it's going to be a push for them. I don't see them not slipping up enough to just fade away a little bit. But I mean, if you'd have said to a Brighton fan before the season started, you'd be 5th, 6th, whatever they are after 10 games, and then finish 10th at the end of the season. I think they bite your arm off. Yeah. They bite both your arms off, I think. And it's a real platform for them if they can keep Potter long term, if they can invest in the team a little bit, and bring some good players in. If they can keep hold of Basuma, then there's nothing to say that they can't continue to push up. It's with Premier League teams, it's always about, can you progress? Can you go to that next level? And Brighton have certainly done that this year. Next for me is Everton. This is going to be almost identical to yours, I think. Everton's injuries are going to get on top of them, and they already are, frankly.
Yeah.
Calvert-Lewin has had setbacks. He's already going to have missed a good chunk of this season. Richarlison's got an injury in him. Decore's missing a bit. Andre Gomez is not around. Defensively, they don't look as strong at the moment. They're leaking goals, and they do look, I'll be honest, quite toothless at the moment, which is weird because at the start of the season they weren't too bad. They looked quite dangerous.
Yeah, they did.
Damari, I know they only spent tiny amounts of money, but Damari Gray and Andros Townsend actually looked like they were going to be quite shrewd purchases. So, but unfortunately, they've not been able to keep that going at the moment, and they've obviously lost again this evening. So, And then in that 8th position, I've got. It's really tricky because I want to put Arsenal in there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know whether or not whether we're gonna get another one of those blips where they go off the boil for a while. Yeah. But at the moment, I think that their young players are just so energetic and so good for them. I don't think they're gonna fall away as quickly. But equally, I don't know if I think that Leicester are going to finish as low down as 8th. That's a big call. So I'm going to put Spurs in there, only because we don't know for 100% that Conte is there. And frankly, based on what I said on the podcast tonight, even if he does come in, I'm not entirely convinced that he's going to have the impact that everyone thinks he does. I think that it's going to be a lot. The fact that he's only signing an 18-month contract says to me 2 things. One, that Daniel Levy doesn't think he's long-term, and Conte has given himself an insurance to get out if he wants to. So it's going to be interesting to whether we ever find out what the discussions are between Levy and Conte, because we know Conte wants to spend money. We know he's going to want to change that team quite significantly. But he's going to have to work with, for the next 2 months, if he comes in this week, he's going to have to work for the next 2 months with that squad of players that currently he's got. His best player, his talisman, does not want to be at that club. Can Conte change Kane and get him back focused and playing like the old Kane? That is going to be really key. If he can't, that's where they finish. If he can get Kane on side and get Son firing again, then they're probably up here again. So, but that's my reasoning.
Next for me is Arsenal. Even though I said between Spurs and Leicester, I think the Conte bounce will actually have an effect because he went into Milan and he managed to break the reign of Juventus. And I do think he is a sort of one of those up there managers. And with the likes, I know Spurs look shit at the moment, but you look at the players, the fact that they have Son, they have Lucas Moura, they have Harry Kane. They do have some world-class players in that team. So I think with the right manager, he can turn them around. With Arsenal, I still think they're a team in progression. I think Arteta, I would give him definitely till the end of the season, especially with the progress they're making now. I know we were all saying he should probably be getting sacked at the start of the season, but I think we're finally starting to see what he's been trying to build. And my thing always was with Arteta, the fact that he was trying to play Man City football with a Norwich team. Whereas now he's starting to build up. I'm not saying that his team are on the level of City, but he's starting to get in the players to play that sort of football, and we're starting to see it. But I'm just going off the Conte bounce with this one that they will finish below Spurs. We're doing 6th and 5th. So yeah, next for me will be Spurs. And I've pretty much covered why I think Spurs will be there. And then next for me, to be honest, is going to be West Ham. Controversial. It's to be honest, it's between them and United.
I don't know if it's controversial. I mean, the very fact that West Ham are even in this conversation is incredible as a West Ham fan. I'm so used to us being in this sort of conversation down here. So to even be talked about, even if it's a very distant talk, about even breaking that top 4 is incredible for us. So
I think just going off squad, to be honest, I think United, with the fact we've got Ronaldo, we've got all these players, and Ollie relies on individual moments, and we've got so many of those individual moments in our team.
Yeah. I think the key for United is going to be, and if we switch across to mine now, the key for United is going to be defensively.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's any question about them going forward.
No.
They've got those moments. You've got people who can do incredible things like Ronaldo can, and Cavani and Fernandes.
Rashford, etc.
Yeah, Rashford, Greenwood, Pogba if he turns up one afternoon. So 7th place.
I don't even know if you said Bruno, did you?
7th place, I'm actually going to put Leicester. I think that their up and down form is going to see them miss out. The biggest concern with Leicester at the moment is defensively. Yeah, they look really open at times. They've already this season. We talked about how they ran out of steam the last 2 seasons and missed out on top 4. This season already, they've let slip a number of leading positions, not just in the Premier League but in Europe as well. And that is a massive concern. If they can't hold on to leads and keep dropping points and winning positions, then I don't think that 5th and 6th is going to be realistic for them. They can change that. I mean, anybody can change any of this. Things can change very quickly. But right now, I think that's where Leicester are going to be. Sixth, I think, will be Arsenal. I think that the way they're going right now, I think that they've finally, as you said earlier in the podcast, I think they've finally found a lot of those puzzle pieces and they've finally clicked into place. He's getting a tune out of Aubameyang, which we all thought was impossible. We all thought he was done. Lacazette is doing a job.
Yeah.
Odegaard, who was one of their best players last year, can't even get in the team now.
The defence is starting to gel
Defensively,
together.
they look superb. Yeah. They've barely conceded a goal in the last 4 or 5 games. And everything is going forward. I mean, Arsenal fan TV is now non-existent because they're not losing. You know,
did you see all the fans singing at the game?
No.
They're singing "Get them out of our club."
What, Arsenal fan TV? Well, the thing is that they thrived on the negativity of Arsenal. Arsenal fan TV would never have become a thing.
Yeah, well, I only ever watch it when they lose.
Exactly, but the problem is, for them, it went from being funny to being an embarrassment to the club. Yeah. So it's no wonder the Arsenal fans want them out because they are embarrassing. Mm-hmm. So the next one, I'm going to do it just because. I'm going to do it just because I'll be different. And I'm dreaming here. Of course, I'm dreaming. Of course, this is highly unlikely. Well, it's unlikely. I don't know about highly unlikely. I'm doing this, and I'll tell you why. It's because I, like you, believe that they are not going to sack Solskjaer.
Yeah. Until
it's to the point where they can't get top 4 anymore. I think that Solskjaer in the last 3 years has shown that he will have really bad runs and then he'll go on really good runs. The question will be is what West Ham do when they're having those bad runs. Can we keep this going? I think that the way the West Ham team are playing right now and how together they are, they've got every chance of breaking that top 4 with Man United playing the way they are.
Yeah.
If Solskjaer somehow finds an incredible run of form, then fine. But if they sack their manager and bring in a much more experienced manager, then that switches almost instantly. Yeah. Because the team that they've got, there is absolutely no way in hell they should be even contemplating 5th to 5th and 6th.
To be honest, if we sacked our manager, I could see us starting to fight for. Well, it's pointless pointing, but I could see us starting to fight for the champions.
Yeah, because you're not that far away. It's still early doors in the season, and you've absolutely got a squad. Your squad, player for player, outside of your central defensive midfielders, is no worse than any of those other top 3.
No.
Defensively, your fully fit back 4 is very. I know Harry Maguire gets a load of fucking stick, but actually, if you can get him in the right mindset with the right players around him, we know he's good because we see what he's like for England and we've seen what he was like for Leicester and we've seen what he's like for Man United at times. He has been very, very good for United. Attacking wise, well, need no introduction with the attacking talent that United have had. It is just that defensive midfield position.
Yep.
And I feel like the Spurs game last weekend, we learned nothing about Man United because of how poor Spurs were. I think anybody could have cut Spurs apart last weekend. Man United did improve. Their energy was better, but because Spurs were so slow in their build-up, they made it easy for United.
Yeah,
United got their tails up because the players realised that Spurs were there for the taking. If Spurs went at United and did to them what Liverpool did to you and pressed, I think that would have been a very, very different game. Yeah. But Spurs were the perfect team to play in the position that Solskjaer was.
Yeah.
So, there we go. Right, top 4 then, Dan.
So obviously United next. Under Solskjaer, I will be lucky to finish 4th, let alone any higher than that. If we were to sack Solskjaer and get a better manager in, like I say, I could see us pushing for 1st. But under Solskjaer, I think the ceiling is set at 4th, to be honest. Even though we finished 2nd last season, Liverpool had God knows how many injuries. Chelsea started with like one leg in the two-leg race.
If Chelsea had sacked Lampard a month earlier, they would have got second.
They would have got second. So United. Then next for me is Liverpool. I just think City and Chelsea are. I think all 3 of them will be right up there this season. I think it's going to be very close, but I don't think it's going to be 10, 20 points like it has been
not.
Last few seasons.
It takes something pretty catastrophic to happen for one of those teams to fall off that badly.
I can see it sort of being 3-6 points between each team come the end. And then to finish second.
This is tricky, this, isn't it?
To be honest, I'm going to go City. just because I haven't really seen, other than when they played City, I haven't seen Chelsea slip up too much. No. Whereas I've seen City slip up a couple of times. They've got away with it a couple of times, but they lost to, was it Palace just gone? Mm-hmm. They lost to Spurs.
Yep.
And I just think Chelsea just looks so consistent. Even when they lost that City game, I feel like was just a blip. I feel like he tried something and it didn't work. And he's almost sort of learnt his lesson. And since then, I mean, they've just, even against Liverpool, they went down to 10 men, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I thought they were the better team until then, and they still managed to hold out and get a point. And that was at Anfield. So for me, I think Chelsea are going to win the league, and they just look so good at the moment.
Yeah. To mine then. 4th West Ham, for the reason we've already talked about. I think there's, of course, I'm dreaming, as I said. I think that for this to happen, so many things have to fall into place to make this work. And this is assuming that Arsenal don't get a groove on. If they keep going, there's every reason that they could finish in there as well. Yeah. It's a crazy situation how things can change so quickly. A few injuries for West Ham are going to have a much bigger impact than they do for someone like United. Yeah. So, as I said, there's a huge amount that's got to go right for West Ham to finish there than there is for things to go wrong elsewhere, if that makes sense. But I'm going to dream and I'm going to put it there anyway. Next for me, I'm with you. I think that Liverpool, I think it's going to be so damn close, and this could easily be any which permutation you like. It really could. Liverpool, apart from the weekend just gone, Liverpool have really begun to look like that side from 2-3 years ago. And I think that they are... If Salah can maintain this form for the rest of the season, my mind could be changed. But I don't know. There's just something about me that tells me that they are going to slip up more than the other teams. They're just quite not as ruthless as the other two. And then a bit like what you said, that's my final order. If I had to make a change, then I would probably go, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go that way around. I think that Liverpool will be more consistent because I've said this before, because I think Man City's lack of number 9, lack of a real proper goal scorer that's going to get you 20, 25 goals a season. Yeah. I think that's going to catch them out more times than it will catch out Chelsea, where the injuries they've got, for example, right now. Liverpool don't have an out-and-out number 9, but they've got goals from Salah, from Mane, from Jota, from Firmino. Man City, of course, have got goals from other places, but I think that lack of a focal point, it hurts City more the way they play than it does Liverpool. Yeah. And we've already seen a few occasions this season where they've really got away with it, where they've managed to scrape a 1-0. But then equally, they can turn around and batter someone 6-0 and have 6 different goal scorers. So it's really tricky. But a bit like what you've said, I think that it's going to be really close. They literally could be like 4 points between all 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think
it's going to be so close this year.
And because of that, because of the pressure that brings, when it's, when you get to March, April time, and they're all almost on the same points, the goal difference are going to be similar. The pressure might just take its toll on 1 or 2 of the players in the teams, or the teams as a whole. Yeah. And then we'll see who goes. But for me, Chelsea have been the most consistent this season. They've shown like they've got a bit more. This is going to sound really weird though. They've got more about them. If you go back to the Liverpool game, they were able to shut up shop and just change the tactics like that. Go from being on the front foot, right, lads, we do not lose this game, and they sat in and they sorted it. And I don't know whether Man City and Liverpool have got the ability to change it quite that well. Go from an attacking team to an ultra defensive team when a situation needs it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We're 10 games in. We're basing this on 10 games worth of evidence. Usually, most people will start to make these sorts of judgments by Christmas. Yeah, when they are sort of 20 games in. So, we are taking somewhat of a leap of faith. I think literally the only position on this table that we can both guarantee is going to happen is Norwich last. Yeah, that's the only one that we can guarantee. Yeah, every other one of those, there's so much yet to happen. But I think that it's going to be roughly that. So we'll have a look at this come the end of the season and see how close we got. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you agree with us. Again, let us know in the comments below where we've screwed up, where you think we were. I can tell now that everyone's going to tell me I'm off my head thinking West Ham are going to go. And I agree with you, but hey, I'm dreaming. So, yeah, let us know in the comments. Let us know on social media what you think. Hit that subscribe button as well. Check our podcast out. We come out every single Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Was it 7 a.m.? 7 a.m., I think. Yeah, 7 a.m. So, yes, hit us up. Search Kickabout Podcast on all your favourite RSS feeds and podcast players. And give us a listen. And we will see you all again very soon.
Bye.